here we are. We're going to talk about a little thing that I've been chatting to a lot of clients about this week, which is dealing with food cravings. So this is one of the main reasons that people tend to have a hard time losing fat, right? Because everybody can eat, chicken and broccoli and rice for a while, but then, eventually you get this little voice in your head saying, I'd really like a biscuit. And then, they're a little bit more-ish, eh? It's hard to eat just one, and the next thing you know, you've eaten 10 of them, and then boom, there goes your calorie deficit for like 4 days. So that's a bit of a problem, huh? So how the hell do you deal with this? I've got a little flow chart that I bring people through for if a food craving strikes you. And, whatever, biscuits are a particular weakness of mine, which is why there's never any in my house. But, you could substitute ice cream, chocolate, crisps, whatever your own personal kryptonite happens to be. So let's say you're there, it's like 9 o'clock at night, you're in your home, you're end of the day, you had dinner like an hour ago, and you just get that kind of, you want something, you want something sweet, you want like a biscuit, right? And so what are you going to do about that? How are you going to deal with that craving? So here's the flow chart. The first little decision tree is, okay, so you have this food craving. If somebody was to offer you a piece of grilled salmon right now, would you be delighted to accept it? Because if you are, that means you're probably hungry. And if you're not, that means that you're not hungry, right? So that's the first thing to figure out. A lot of time people just have a hard time figuring out when they're hungry or not. You can look for those sensations like that hollow feeling in your stomach, that kind of shaky, low blood sugary type feeling. Or you can just look at like when was the last time you had a good substantial balanced meal, right? So if it's like more than 6 hours since your last meal, you'd love a piece of salmon and you have a biscuit craving, the first thing that you should probably do is go eat a balanced meal, right? So find yourself some protein, some vegetables, some slow release carbohydrates, some healthy fats. Get them all together on a plate, eat that, wait 20 minutes and see if you still want a biscuit. Because, you might be hungry, man. So you get that off the table first. Okay, so second thing, let's say you don't want the grilled salmon, you have eaten recently, but you still have this biscuit craving. Now we got to figure this one out, right? So why the hell do you have that? Because it's quite likely what's happening here is your brain is trying to solve another problem and it's come up with a biscuit-shaped solution, which won't actually solve the problem, but it seems like it'll make the bad feeling go away. So oftentimes when you get a food craving like this, you're not actually craving the food, you're craving something else. You're craving sleep because you're tired, you're craving rest, you're craving a break from some negative emotion you have. Maybe you're anxious, maybe you're depressed, maybe you're just sad about something, maybe you're just bored, right? So it's likely what you actually have is one of these common secondary emotions, and that's been sitting away, annoying you in the back of your head somewhere, and you haven't really been examining it, but your subconscious has noticed it, and has noticed that you feel bad, and it's trying to solve the problem for you, right? So your subconscious mind has just processed all this, and then said, how do we make this bad feeling go away? Oh, I know, biscuits, that works really well for that. The problem is, though, that it never ends, right? Because if you haven't identified that what's actually happening is you're sleep deprived and you go try cure sleep deprivation with biscuits, there are no amount of biscuits that will give you 2 hours more sleep, right? So that's why you go off and you eat one and you still have the craving, then you eat another one, you still have the craving, you eat the whole packet, you still have the craving, but now you feel sick, so you stop. But if you weren't physically full, you'd probably eat another one, right? And so that's because what you want isn't biscuits, what you actually want is sleep, or emotional connection, or a break from anxiety or stress or something like that. So what you really have to do is you have to go back and you have to figure out what the hell the actual trigger for that craving was, and you have to deal with that thing. That's hard, right? It's actually quite difficult to manage anxiety and stress and depression and all of these sorts of things. But I'll tell you what, it's a hell of a lot harder to manage them if you're also fat from eating biscuits, because that gives you more stress and anxiety and everything else. So unfortunately, the biscuit is not a good solution to stress and anxiety or sleep deprivation or depression or boredom or any of these things that are generating the craving. You got to get into that more and you got to figure that one out. If you're bored, take up a craft, learn to play a musical instrument, learn learn to program, or learn some fun thing to do with your mind and your hands at the end of the day. If you're stressed, you try and build in a walk or call up somebody you haven't talked to in a while and rant to your friend about how much of an asshole everybody is pissing you off. Whatever you got to do, but it's the only way to make those cravings go. People say, okay, just get them out of your house, like I actually alluded to at the start of this video. That can work, but I've met people who have driven to their 24-hour petrol station at 2 o'clock in the morning because they had a really strong chocolate craving that they just couldn't get rid of. And it's it's not just saying no is not an effective strategy. You've got to deal with the underlying cause. You got to figure out why you're having that craving, and then you got to begin the hard work of actually putting in things in your life that will deal with the underlying stuff. Okay, so I don't know if that's necessarily going to be helpful, because like obviously the work is just beginning once you actually identify what the problem is. But at least when you identify what the problem is, now you can actually start working on a solution that will solve it, rather than just something that'll kick it down the road, which is giving into the food cravings. Okay, peace out. See y'all later.